And so it is. Amen, amen, amen. So excited. I get to do a live every day. Yeah. How blessed is that? How amazingly blessed is that I get to do a live every single darn day right from my house. Y'all maybe not know that this is good, good, good to and for me. And I'm just waiting to see if I think I'm up. I think, am I up? And I hope that today I got to check into some things and make sure that I got all that I need so I could have a steady stream. Do I look like I'm washed out today? Do I look too bright? It's funny because I don't know what that's about. Is it because it's a little dark outside, or because I don't have my backlight on, or what is it about? Let me see if I can make an adjustment while I'm here. I mean, I might as well. It's just, it's just let's see. It's some clicks. It's some clicks of the mouse. So how are you? Good morning. Happy Saturday to you. I am Sandra. I am washed out. Okay, let me thank you for telling me. I'm trying to see where the settings it helps if I put on these glasses, I'm gonna tell you. Dropped my ink pen. And so let me just see if I can figure out where the setting is for here it is. It's got a little thing on there. So let me see if I just kind of decrease the gamma a bit. This side. Okay, let's see. How does that look? That's better. Okay. I don't know. And let me just put that up a little bit and see how that works. I don't know. Whatever. It's hitting me on the left. Is this my left? No, this is my left. For you. I don't know how to do this. Okay. Let's see. How's that? Is that any better? Thank you, Sandra. I love you. Is that any better? Good morning, Ruth. Okay, she says that's better. Okay, good. Good morning, Ruth. How are you today, darling? I am on a mission today because for some reason, while I was in the shower this morning, I started thinking about it seems dark in here. Even though I wonder, it's like crazy dark to me. It just looks, wait a minute, let me see what happens if I turn this light and turn it away. Oh, that's harsh. Wonder if I turn it away from me. This is actually one of my sun lamps. That thing is coming towards me. I don't know. You know how I always talk about I have sun lamps to kind of offset that seasonal of now Sandra's been listening to me, so it's got to be your device. Put the light behind my computer. Girl, that ain't gonna happen because my monitors are mounted up against the wall, so it's no behind there. they are like pressed up against the wall, like, you know. So, yeah, Ruth, adjust your device because if Sandra can hear me, then you should be able to hear me. I don't know what that's about. But okay, I don't know. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Maybe the light can bounce off of the wall onto me. That's better. I think that's better. I think you can at least see my features. Sometimes I get so washed out that I can't see my features, and I don't know that, I don't know how it comes across from your end, but thank you, Sandra, for that. Look, Sandra is means helper of people. Isn't that amazing? So I get to share a name with with Sandra. Hey, Darilia, grand rising to you. How are you today, darling? Okay, so in the shower this morning, I got this thing that, usually Saturdays are my free flow Saturdays. And so I don't come in here with an agenda on a Saturday. However, this morning, I've been, I tell that device in there, I say, I'm going to say Esther. I'll call her Esther today. So she doesn't hear me, because sometimes it's like she is like, but I've been telling her to play As by Stevie Wonder, AS. Always, always, I'll be loving you always. Anyway, so I figured I would stay in the shower as long as that song was on. And then I had to get out and get on with it. And so I've been riffing to that song. And so this morning I started thinking about this thing about love. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about love. I mean, because this is a challenge, I think, for all of us. Even if you've been married for 30 years, it's still, it's one of the, it's darn it, it's the best teacher. Woo! It's the best teacher ever. And so when it comes down to matters of the heart, are we passing the test or are we failing the test? That becomes the question. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. But before I do, I've got to get into talking about or doing the daily guides, and then I can talk about that. And I'm going to tell you, I pulled this off of the shelf. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily use this particular book, but I did pull it off of the shelf because I was like thinking, when it comes down to love, it's just juicy. Not talking about sex today, but I'm talking about love. I could talk about, how it's expressed or whatever. We'll see how it comes out, because I don't know. I don't have a real roadmap on how this is going to work out today, but that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling it. So, and then I got this thing where, I was getting dressed and I was like, here, why is it we are January, and it's almost like as soon as one thing goes away, another comes up. And so whatever that is about, I don't know, but let's move forward. Let's move forward. So I want to read for you the daily guides. This is my little Kindle, and I'm going to pull out the other Kindle, but we'll read the daily guides and then we'll get into that other talk. And you know what? I hope that neither Dr. Leo or Reverend Raymond pulls me too far off of what it is that I'm talking about today. But I know sometimes I tend to riff on this stuff. So I want to keep steady love. I want to keep steady. I want to be steady today. So here we go for today. It's called Faith and Healing. Faith and Healing. And this is by Reverend Marilyn Louise Leo. And it's taken out of the Science of Mind magazine. And this is what she says from Ralph Waldo Trine. I'm so used to seeing Ralph Waldo Emerson. This Ralph Waldo Trine is interesting. And what all the world's a seeking. What all the world's a seeking. That's interesting. I wonder if they shortened that. What all the world's a seeking. Anyway, by Ralph Waldo Trine. And this is the quote that she uses. Faith is an invisible, invincible magnet and attracts to itself whatever is fervently desired and calmly and persistently expects. Yeah. Faith is an invisible and invincible magnet and attracts to itself whatever it fervently desires. Woo, y'all. Now, can you imagine that some people have faith in pain? Some people have faith in sickness because they think about it. It's like it's on their mind because it seems like it's right here in their face. And so in that case, sometimes you have faith in things that you don't want to happen. Can you get that? Ooh, woo, 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 woo. All right. So, interesting quote. I like to turn over ideas. I don't like to just, hey, Tracy, good morning. Good morning. I didn't see you pop in there in the midst of that. Okay. Hey. That just popped out at me. Okay. So Ernest Holmes from the Holmes Study Course. He says, this is the quote from there. It says, faith is the magic word that makes the apparent desert of our experience blossom and become green and productive. Faith, an eternal and unwavering faith in limitless possibilities of humankind. This faith is mine. Okay. Did you just see that? As it was like if you're looking at a desert and then all of a sudden the green and the lush and all of that stuff comes up. Oh, yes. Yes, Tracy. Juicy topic. Yes. Okay. So now, here is what Dr. Leo wrote. It says, we often say we believe in something, but is that faith? Faith is much deeper than mere belief. We may believe a friend is going to take a particular action on our behalf, but is there true faith and action? Is there true faith the action will happen? Perhaps true faith is achieved only when the subject is about inner, infinite presence. For if our faith is complete in spirit, there is no reason to express faith in anyone or anything outside of ourselves. Now that's something I should, if our faith is in spirit, there is no reason to express faith in anyone or anything outside of ourselves. That is something I should jot down because that might have a little bit to do with what I'm talking about today. I did drop my pen, didn't I? I said that right at the beginning. Here's my wonderful pen. I'm not going to jot it down, but so faith in God versus individuals. I would say faith in oneself, but let me tarry on. So Reverend Dr. Lloyd Tupper, longtime practitioner, minister, and personal confidant, says, if it is in the infinite mind of God, then it is in the infinite mind in me. Therefore, it must be demonstrated through me. This statement is an inner knowing of truth. It is complete conviction without hesitation or doubt of anything, unlike the true nature of the infinite. It is an understanding of mind, of the way things work to bring about the conditions in our lives. It is this understanding and knowing that heals. We can't just think and say, I believe Jane will be well. Healing occurs through a deep understanding that there is only one infinite presence, one universal mind that is in and around everything. That presence is you, me, and Jane. The only life there is Jane's life. So I don't want to get into the technicality of that because y'all know I could go down dancing down a path with that. Yeah, I'm going to let that ride. I'm going to let it ride because while while I think that sometimes well, I'm going to let it ride. Spirit knows nothing other than its own nature, which is pure love. It knows nothing of illness or limitation. In truth, there is nothing to be healed. We say that all the time. There is nothing to be healed, only truth or only God to be revealed. Therefore, in prayer treatment, we feel our connection with the energy of spirit and speak our word, recognizing only the good essence that Jane is. God essence that Jane is. And we know without a shadow of a doubt, there is only wholeness. Am I going to let that ride? So for many people that are struggling with an illness or a sickness in their body, they're looking at me and saying, how can this be so? I too, even in the issues that I am having currently, am still in this mind and body of God. So true. Right? So true. I am not trying to negate that or to say that any time that the experience is not what you would have it to be, that you fall outside of that. That is not my take. I'm reading you what Dr. Leo said here. And so I want to go down a path. But her affirmation that goes with this is life was created from the fruits of the beloved, and I dwell in its nature of love. Y'all know it's so hard for me to let go of stuff because I am just not because I'm right, but because I like to make somehow I think that I can talk until there is clarity that comes around a particular idea. And so a lot of times especially in New Thought, we have this idea about what things are supposed to look like, and in relationships too. And so that's why I want to get into this thing about relationships. Good, googly moogly. All right, so let me do Reverend Bray Montz and you know, I read these because for me it's stimulating. It's stimulating to bring in others' thoughts and ideas. I wonder like sometimes what it is that you think too, right? So what's your love language, right? What is your love language? If we had to break it down to 5 love languages, which is what Gary Chapman does in his books, is 5, right? I think it is 5. Words of affirmation, right? Gifts, acts of service, quality time, and physical touch. What's yours? So let me read Reverend Monts before we get into that. Am I at the last one? I do believe I am. Yes, I am, because yesterday I read Destination Unknown. This is called Reaching Higher and Higher. Okay. Um, yeah, look, y'all type in if you I wonder if I will see it because yesterday it was like it took so long for me to see the comments. So I wonder if I'll see it. But if it type in your love language, that would be that. I want to know if you know what your love language is. If you know, if you know, if you know. All right. So while I'm reaching, or while I'm reading, reaching higher and higher. So this quote, his first quote comes from Sharon Salzberg. It says, "Don't meditate to get better at meditating. We meditate to get better at life." Oh, good quote. It's funny because when Joe Dispenza talks about meditation, he says you should not get up the same way that you sat down. Like in our meditation, we are creating, he's saying that we're seeing our highest and best possible selves. And so in the midst of the meditation, it's not just that you are sitting and in meditation, which is like when I went to Vipassana, we were getting intimate with this physicality of who we are. I'm on a riff, aren't I? So we were getting intimate with the physicality of who we are, by breathing and feeling the hairs as they moved, and then scanning our bodies over and over for these things called sankoras. And so the meditation was one that had a focus to it. The focus was our bodies, but in doing so you were focusing your mind, and so that was sharpening your sense of awareness that takes you deeper into ideas and thinking. Well, she's saying here we don't meditate to get better at meditating, not to just for the act of it, the skill of it. How do I sit still longer? How do I she says we meditate to get better at life. And when you look at it like that, then you change up how you meditate. That means that your meditation can be a moving meditation. Your meditation can be while you're washing dishes or taking a shower even. You meditate in different areas, not just to, I'm sat down and it is, okay. Okay, so that was a riff. I'm sorry. So now to go to his quote from Ernest Holmes, "A New Design for Living," he takes this from. Let me stand this up so I can be animated. So he says, "The spiritual nature of the universe, God, mind, intelligence, from all viewpoints, science, philosophy, and religion, always was, always is, and always will be. Without beginning and without end. Eternal, immortal, timeless. If we are a creation of that which is eternal or immortal, if we are a creation of God and God is what we are, can what we are be other than immortal and eternal? Can it? Good. Juicy quote. Good quote. Yes. Yes to all of that, right? Yes. And so why do we grasp? Why do we grasp if we are in that knowing space? Just something to ponder. There is no reason to grasp. All right, and so from Reverend Raymond's writing. Here we go. The purpose of spiritual practices and spiritual living is to improve our quality of life individually and collectively. We often forget that second part. What does my meditating on some remote mountain, achieving personal enlightenment matter if it is not making my life better in some way? He says, I remember buying this small 4-inch bamboo arrangement one afternoon in Chinatown in Washington, D.C. I asked something about needing to repot it once it grew. The clerk repeated several times that this kind of bamboo remains small. A year later, my 4-inch stalks were 8 inches. Just because someone who supposedly knows said we are to remain small, engaged in war and prone to illness, does not mean that that is the truth of our being. Our nature is to expand in greater and greater ways of expressing what we are. Spirit. We do this work to recognize and to be more internally aware of our truth for the purpose of living that truth externally. This is why Yahshua said, by their fruit or their actions, what they do, you will recognize them. That's out of Matthew 7:20. We are also reminded, so you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. That's out of James 2:17. Good morning, Twyla. How are you, dear? If we treat and are not moving our feet, treatment in New Thought is prayer. If we treat and are not moving our feet, are we really committed to the treatment's demonstration? Right? Are you? Oh, I could riff off on that one too. If you pray about something and then don't move in the direction towards the actualization of what you prayed for, right? What is that? What is that? What is that? Are we just sitting there, and just whatever? Okay, I could riff on this, right? As this month's in for a new one to begin, let's recommit to the ever-evolving nature of our being and act from a consciousness of living open at the top. Oh, that was good, Reverend Raymond. I love it. So that was me breathing some life back into a series that was done from in the daily guides from last year, because I loved Reverend Raymond so much, and I reserve the right to, if I want to at some point, revisit those. I will. I will. The affirmation that he put with this one is I believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of my individual soul forever and ever expanding. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. What a light you are unto the world. He says, I understand that the life of all is God. Amen, amen, amen on that. Right where you are. Woo! Right where you are, the allness is. Yes, 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 yes. All of that, y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's one of those things where all of a sudden you just be like, you just makes you want to shout. Because it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. So I am so glad. I'm so glad you're here today. I wanted to talk about love a little bit. And as I was reading that stuff, it was like, sometimes things have a tendency to kind of morph and change right in the midst of while I'm doing something or while I'm thinking about something. It morphs and changes into a different way of me seeing things. Not that this was one of those instances, but it does cause something to happen for each and every one of us. So I don't know. I didn't see anybody type anything in here about your love languages, but it's really interesting when we start to talk about relationships and love. One of the things that I am aware of is from doing this, what I do here, whether we are talking about epigenetics and historical stuff, or whether we're talking about present day things, all of us have a very different way of coming to the place that we are. I don't know about your history, and to some degree, I know about mine, but I don't know all the intricate details of it. From a perspective of when I was a child, as a child, I had certain ideas and images. I saw my parents and the relationship that they had. My parents, I come from two people who, I think they got married in 1958, 56 maybe. And they had 5 children, 6 pregnancies, and there was a child before they ever got together, that my father fathered before they ever got together. Whatever. That's it. While it serves as a something, it there's so much backstory to that, of course, as well. So when all of us are informed in the way that we relate to others based on a number of things. It can be based on our ancestral history. It can be based a bit on the ways in which we were raised. It can be based on our own disposition according to the stars or whatever. I was born up under the sign of Pisces, and so I can be a bit more emotionally driven, a little more, whatever than some other folks may be. So it does inform, my presence does inform how I engage. But what tends to happen is that over time, the images that we see cause us to believe that the way that we perceive love might be the right way. I had a girlfriend, and I've talked about this before on here, who told me one time, based on what she saw growing up, her mother was abused. Sometimes you have even with that, I have a hard time saying that her mother was abused. However, in her relationships, usually she was the provocateur of the abuse, because in her mind, this is what love looked like. So, she said to me one time that this man that she was divorcing didn't love her enough to hit her. And so when she got with the next man and they had this volatile relationship, she was more comfortable because that was her familiar. When we talk about the temple of somebody's familiar, it was her familiar to be in a relationship with all of that, that aggression, all of that anger, all of that stuff. And so when you see it happening, it is a lot of times based on what people have, what they have seen, what they are accustomed to, what they've grown up with, that type of idea. Now, so so that is not to cast dispersion or judgment on that. I would say that for me, I desire to be honored in a relationship. What that looks like is is according to my perception of it. And for her, hers looked and felt that type of way. So I'm just saying that to kind of put that out there, that that is a reality for some. That is the way things are for some folks. Just not how I choose. So when we look at this thing of relationships and love, it is kind of we show up and hopefully in our truth so that we can have a honest perception about what works for us, not what worked for Leave It to Beaver, not these the Cosby kind of family, or not all of the images that we have been given, but what works for us, right? And so being able to be honest with yourself about what it is that you desire and why is a very powerful thing. Now, one of the things that I have taken as a I have these concepts that I really like to embrace and make my own. And one of the things that I remember Marianne Williamson saying in one of her books is, we gotta like love takes courage, right? It is not, we gotta step forth and allow it to rip us apart at times. And if you have children, at times that is exactly what happens. It feels as though somebody reaches in, snatches your heart, throws it on the ground, and steps on that bad boy, right? And yet and still, what is that you are going to, whatever it means, you are going to walk through that valley and that fire because that is your child and you love them. But in relationships, people don't tend to have the very same thing. One of the things that I have seen and I have witnessed over and over again, and sometimes been guilty of, is thinking that it has got to show up in the way that I desire for it to show up, or else that is, that I can't do it. But one of the things that I have found is that if all we are seeking after is our own comfort, if all we are seeking after is the calm, smooth sailing, are we really like dedicated to love? I mean, there, by definition, everything has this ebb and flow, or sometimes we experience the storms. Even when we think, oh, we can have sunshine and blue skies all the time like they have in certain places, we know in those certain places that hurricanes come or earthquakes come or things come that upset and cause turbulence in those areas. Everything in life goes through these different changes, and our ability to remain consistent and in this knowing that this too is perfectly how it's supposed to be. When we find ourselves in those situations, it's amazing because instead of like turning and sticking our tail between our legs and running off, we stand our ground, because what we know in truth is that this person, the object of my love, is worthy of just that. So when I think about it from a number of standpoints, I'm looking at this thing of love in a very what do I want to say? A very different context than, that then some mothers might look at it, because what I know is that for me, I want to experience the courage to say that, what, and this is not just with the object of my affection, right? Not just with the person that I'm supposed to be tied to, but even in my friendships, I want to be that person that is not wishy-washy and will disappear when the going gets tough. To me, that isn't what love is about. But too often we are told that love has to be a certain way, or look a certain way, like it's gotta feel good all the time. And so rather than allowing it to burn us up, rather than allowing it to sometimes rip us apart, we want to say, oh yeah, even before we get to it. I remember, oh y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all this, cause oh my gosh, I was so in love with this man. I was so in love with this man. And I remember just telling him that I was so in love with him that I was scared. I was scared to move forward, because there was this fear that, oh my God, the way that I feel, I know that I'm going to get hurt here. Oh, that was, and I said it out of my mouth. I said it out of my mouth. I was telling them, oh, the way I'm feeling right now, it was scary to me. And so, I remember, kind of having this conversation. He was asking me, well, scared of what? And I was like, scared I'm going to get hurt, scared that this is going to happen, scared that scared that this might not be forever, right? But guess what? I didn't run. Shit. I wanted to get all the goodness out of that. I could. I wanted, but part of it is like I just read in that thing about this idea of faith. If I had in my mind that it was temporary, that the intensity of what I was going through was temporary, I was feeling like I needed to suck all of that out of it. I could while I had it, instead of worrying about when it's going to end. Let me suck all of it out while I can, and then go on from there. But what happens is that so many of us have learned to not, how do I want to say, to not even get to that point. Sometimes people turn tail and run before they ever get to that point. Or because we're so afraid, we've got a society based on fear, there is a retreat that happens in so many people, instead of just saying, okay, let me ride this wave and see where it goes. I've often compared love and relationships to that surfing thing. I've used that analogy so many times. It's probably gotten old. Maybe I haven't used it on here in a while, but I always thought about surfers and how a surfer will, they get addicted to surfing. And what they do is they run out to meet the wave. And they get up and they ride that bad boy, and they ride it for all it's worth until it's done. And when it spits them out on the shore, guess what? They pick up their surfboard and they run back out there and they catch the next one. And the next one may not be as good as the first one, or it may be even better, but they run back out there. And so often people are not willing to ride the wave, or once the wave is gone, want to get mad at it, pissed off at it that it actually ran out. How dare you leave me right here, right? And that's what I see so many people doing. They standing on the shore. Darn you! right? Darn you for being over with instead of running back out there and grabbing the next one. You guys, what is it? Oh my gosh, I want to quote some Stevie Wonder lyrics, and I want to quote some, it's better to have loved than lost and never have loved at all. But so many people, we are keeping ourselves cocooned and safe in these little spaces, trying not to be hurt, and therefore not living fully into the moment, not living fully right where we are. And sometimes we just, I don't know what it is. Is it that we give up, that good ain't possible? Oh, do you feel stuck? Do you feel unmotivated? Or is it that this person doesn't quite have it right? It's really funny because when I think about this thing yesterday, let me go here, and before I go there, yesterday I said that perception is a mirror, because I read it out of A Course in Miracles in my lesson. It says perception is a mirror. Let me refresh this, because it looks like from my end that I'm stuck and I don't know how to get unstuck. I don't know if you see me as stuck, but I see myself as stuck over here. And I want to just see if I can hit the refresh. See what happens. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. And hopefully this will still be right where it was and is supposed to be, and that I'm just refreshing this whole thing. Okay. Okay, maybe I'm good. This is streaming live over YouTube too. So I've gotta up my I don't know if this is what this is, if this is an internet lag or if it is something else, but I need to get yeah. So anyway, so wonder if you are in a situation where, say for instance, you've been married for a long time, or you've been in a relationship for a long time, or something else happens, and there is this this tendency to, oh goodness, this just, one of the things that A Course in Miracles talks about is how oftentimes we skip over the present, what's happening in the now moment. We skip over that because we're projecting what happened in the past into the future. And when we project the past into the future, we refuse to see what is now. And so a lot of times we go into these things and we have the expectation. Say, for instance, my friend Alan, when I call him up, he always says exactly the same thing when he picks up the phone. It's no variation. I could have talked to him and we've been cut off, and as soon as I call him back, he'll say exactly the same thing. Like, how's it going? Or how's it? And it's like the same way it was going 30 seconds ago, or something like that. There is a, there is a sameness. And so sometimes we don't even hear when there is a change because we are so tuned into what they always do. We expect that if they've always done it, they will always do it. And so there is a part of our mind that just goes to sleep and doesn't necessarily live or breathe into the current moment because it's the way that it's always been done. We get up out of bed the same way, right? We go and we sit on the toilet in the same way. We do everything the same way. I get it, because I have a morning routine. Man, if I could, if I could work a little nookie into my morning routine, how great would that be? But sometimes we all feel better in the routine of what we are doing, right? And so a lot of times we go to sleep to the process because the influx of new data might be way too much or way more than what we anticipate. So there is this level at which we have the same expectation. But wonder if, say for instance, you get a hold of something different and you begin to look differently or to attend to things differently, then that gives you a different awareness. Wonder if you stirred things up. Wonder if you decided that no longer am I going to be stuck in the same old mindset, because what I thought good girls did, I no longer desire to be the good girl that I was. So wonder if we stirred it up in that way. Wonder if we stirred up things by, just whatever that may mean. Wonder if we stirred it up. If your love language has been one where where you thought to yourself, okay, so let's talk about this for a minute. I started off by talking about how we have different perceptions of what love is based on what we've been through. Sometimes what we see is that people have the perception that love is, or looks like, acts of service. Say, for instance, you've got a person who, and let's talk about this from a standpoint of being people who are people of color, who are descendants of enslaved people. And because we are descendants of enslaved people, a lot of times what we saw was because we did not have agency over our own bodies, it meant that a lot of times we were not able to nurture our children in the way that our ancestors may have. That meant that we were no longer had babies strapped to us, but rather we worked in the fields until a certain time. People were they did not have agency over their own lives, and a lot of times didn't want to get attached to their own children, because that was one of the things that was often done, was families were broken up and split apart. They sold children away from their parents in order to break up the family unit, as a power move, as so many different moves. They would break up the family structure. And so you would find people who didn't even get attached to their own children. Imagine that being your legacy, which means that you would have never learned about the power of touch, that you would have never learned about this idea of what quality time looks like. It would have learned only that your job or your role was dictated to you by something else or somebody else. And so those are the people who go out and think that what's primary for them is to go to work, to earn a living, to toil in that type of way, and never build those kind of connections. And so a lot of times we are looking for people to be different from a way that they have not learned to be. And in that being different, we can't accept them as they are, because we want them to be the way that we think they ought to be. If I'm a person that loves touch and affection, if I'm a person that loves time, but you're a person who loves to provide and who loves to work, if our things don't come together as such, a lot of times people will think that, will cause fights and friction because they want it to be a different way or another way. And it is not that, because that is not even in a person's consciousness. So this perception as a mirror means that a lot of times, because we believe and think in a certain way, we think that the world does. and we have an idea that the person of our affection should think in the same way that we do, and they do not. And so what do we do in those regards? What do you do when people aren't showing up in the way that you want? Do you discard them? Do you think, oh, that love is not here, even though I'm attracted to them, that they're not showing up on time, and so I can't be with them, I can't do this, I can't do that? Y'all, at a certain point, what cowards? I'm agreeing with Marianne Williamson when she says, we are such cowards because we don't let this love just kind of open us up and make us, say, damn, what do I got to do in order to be? I don't know about y'all, but I know that, I have been in relationship with people who I have had in the past a desire to change, to get in there and think that somehow they need to do it my way or there's no way. But here's the juicy thing that I found out is I want to like not have this perception that the only way you can love me is the way that I say that it goes, right? That I want to be open to understanding how, what yours is. I know I may not get fulfilled. I may not get fulfilled because you are always like, that thing of like, oh, they always working, or they're always this, or they're always that. And I'm just feeling so, but, a lot of times, how do you even give, people don't even give voice to that. We get so hurt. And we start getting shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until we can't shrink anymore. We run out of things to talk about. The only thing that now you have to talk about is food, because there's nothing else that doesn't carry some volatility to it. So I don't know. I don't know what the answers are to all of this. But what I do know is that we have serious problems. And so sometimes it is this wonderful way of, let me figure out how to find the solution. I know that there are so many people out there that are touch averse, which means that they were not touched as children. They didn't learn touch anywhere. And the idea of you touching on them all the time is something that is just, oh my God, it's like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. How did you get with them anyway? Right? How do you stay in a relationship like that anyway? Well, as I was listening to Dr. Perry, one of the things he talked about is just like a feral cat or a feral dog that is not used to being petted or held, they will fight you when you try to touch them. And so one of the things that he talked about is how do we get people acclimated to something that makes them even uncomfortable? It may not even be your mate. It may be you. And will their touch ever be acceptable for you? And so these are things I think that we at particular times begin to think about, because at a certain point, we've got to be about the, getting honest with ourselves about, what it is that we are experiencing, what we're going through, what we desire for our relationship, all of those things. We've got to get to a point where we're honest about that. We've got to get to a point where we're honest. I was just trying to see if I was stuck, because yeah. So at a certain point, if we begin to look at this in a different way, like, so say for instance, I started off by saying that our relationships are the best schools and the best learning that we can do about ourselves, for ourselves, right? And so if we begin to look at these relationships and think to ourselves that this is here not to not to rip me apart, but really to and it could be that in the ripping apart that there is the growth that is there. So to ask ourselves the question, if we are really about the business of growth and figuring out what it means to love, to be loved, to allow this to transform us, what is it that we need to do? What do you need to do? I tell you, running from it is not the thing, but rather in the context of this, to see the value in it and figure out if this is what you desire for yourself. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say, you know what? This ain't working for me, right? That too is a powerful step. Because what does it mean to choose yourself? What does it look like to love yourself? Those are questions that I think each of us ask. What does it look like? What is it that we desire? And when you start thinking about it from that perspective, when you start thinking about it from what do we need to do, I think that is a interesting thing. So, you know, how do we be different? How do we breathe into the spaces and ask ourselves questions? Because people are not disposable, nor are we. But trying to understand it from the historical aspect, like I've talked about, how were we raised? What is in our family line? Is this common? Is it, because sometimes you can see in a person's family that families don't touch, right? You can see that there is not affection. You can see this in family structures. And if it's important to you, what then do you do? If it is that a person is working because they believe that that is what they bring to the family structure, and they don't have a perception about why you tripping about them going out and doing what they've always thought. This is what their father did, their grandfather did, everybody did. It was to work in order to support their family, and they don't understand why you're getting vexed about it. There are so many places where the ideas that we have sort of come up against the friction of what it is that we say we want. And so finding the balance in this, I think, is something that is amazing, wonderful, glorious, and good. So ask yourself, what do you want? What is really important to you? And then figure out how it is that you verbalize that. How do we figure out ways to meet in the middle? I mean, because this thing called this, it shouldn't be like, oh, well, let me just endure this, or how do I make myself, sometimes people get into these things about trying to make themselves, endure and be satisfied. And I swear that a piece of me dies every time I think about not living and showing up in my fullness. There is a piece of me that just, and as a matter of fact, I think that happens to our body. I mean, could you imagine that, when you're not feeling that there is a piece of you that just kind of goes to sleep and just, come on. And so for me, I know that what I desire is to live fully in the moment. I don't even know that this is all of what I wanted to talk about in this regard. But maybe I've talked too long. Maybe I've talked too much. But this is the thoughts that I was thinking. That we've got to have the courage to step up every time we see a wave that we might want to ride. We got to have the courage to ride it full out, to live full tilt until we don't. I tell you, there is There is something about cowardice behavior that just is beneath you. It's beneath you. So instead of getting caught up in being fearful about the things that are happening, instead of being caught up in thinking that it's somebody that is against you rather than for you, how do we see the love that is there for us? Um, I think that that's a powerful thing. Let me see how you're loving me, right? Let me be aware that what you believe to be love may not feel like what I think is love. And I need to also be honest about that. Y'all, and sometimes that's where the hiccup is. How do I accept the love that you are giving in the way that you are giving it so that it, it works for both of us? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. But I think we've got to have courageous conversation. And if you need help having that conversation, then get help having the conversation. But I just think that a lot of times our relationships and love is so fraught with fear and condemnation and thinking that we know how it should be. Y'all, let it tear you up. Let it tear you up. Because love, it also heals you. It also holds you. But yes. All right. I think I'm gonna stick a fork in it because I don't even know if that was all of what I wanted to talk about today. When I was in the shower, all of this was just coming and it's like, oh my goodness, this is so like, and maybe it was just for me. Maybe it was just for me, just to say, girl, just dive in. Dive in and quit worrying about forever. And it's really interesting. I think it's interesting that so many people live their life in fear that they never experience what it feels like to love and to be loved. How sad is that, right? How sad is that? Anyway, y'all, that's what I got today. I will be on, on Sundays. I am on at 1:00 on here. And I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for being here. And just some thoughts that's running through my head and off the top of my head. And yeah, and so I'll be here tomorrow at 1:00 for Agape, the Renaissance or Agape Renaissance conversation or talk. And then back on Mondays, I'll be here in the 8:00 hour. So for that, I thank you for your presence. I thank you for all of that. I'm blessing you, sending you love and blessings. And I am claiming for you all the juiciness that you are claiming for yourself. And more, right? What's yours? What is yours, right? What's yours to do? What is yours? All right, with that, I'm out. Please subscribe, right? Like, comment, subscribe. If you are on YouTube or if you're on Facebook, like me, follow me. I appreciate it.